Hey there, I'm Lainey Lipsky, parenting coach and master teacher. Parenting is hard. I totally get it, and I'm here to make it easier for you. Especially if you had a tough childhood or you've got a tough child now, I've got your back. So take a deep breath, relax, and check out this clip from my coaching group this week. And remember to hit like and subscribe if you like my vibe. Let's get started. And what I want to talk about now is the second notion. The first notion was about setting an intention and creating an identity around not being a yeller. The second concept that I want to cover with you here is around habit building. And basically, what I want you to know is that if you are a yeller, whether you were raised by a yeller or you've become a yeller all on your own and you didn't see it coming, um, I want to tell you that it's a habit. It's a way that our nervous systems become wired to react to something that we perceive as an emergency or an urgent situation, even if it's not. Basically, something is happening in our external life that is sending our stress response into high gear. And so we go into fight, flight, or freeze mode. And freeze is a third aspect. We used to, at least when I was in, science class, it was just called fight or flight mode. But there's actually research showing that there's the freeze mode as well. It's kind of like the deer in headlights phenomenon where you just kind of hold still. So when you are in high stress, human beings, not just you specifically, but anybody, the universal you, goes into one of those three responses, one of those three reactions, actually, because they're very much rooted in your nervous system reaction. It's not a thoughtful response. So yelling is just one of those. Yelling is a manifestation of either fight or flight. It's not a freeze response, right? Because freeze would be you're just there and you can't even find words to say. A lot of people think that yelling has to do with the fact that you are in fight, but I have actually seen and experienced myself that when I'm in flight mode, I can start yelling or raising my voice because it's a way for me to emotionally flee from a situation. So, anyway, I'm just getting nerdy about the science of it. It's not important whether it's fight or flight. What's important is that your nervous system has been activated, and that is your body's reaction to it. Yelling is a form of that. And in the same way that, uh, any other habit, any other habitual reaction happens in your body, whether you laugh when you're nervous or you cough when you're uncomfortable. That kind of habitual reaction is the same category as yelling. It is an unconscious thing that happens in the body that triggers you to the point where you're yelling. And what I want you to understand from this is that any habit that has been developed over time can be interrupted, it can be changed, and it can be transformed into something that's much more healthy, something that feels better, so that at the end of the day, you don't feel guilty and regretful and you spent another day trying to make up, to your kids, the fact that you lost your temper. So, with any habit building practice, it's really important to look at the triggers that are associated with your habit. And I'm not just talking about the thing that your child does to make you yell. Maybe they whine in a certain pitch, or they use certain words, or they have a certain behavior that they do. That's one trigger, right? And that is something to certainly look at and to work on with your kids. But there are other triggers that are probably operating without you really knowing that they're there or being that aware of them. A couple of triggers that operate for parents all the time is their own physical reserves, their own physical tanks, as I call it, right? So you might actually be tired as a parent, you probably are. You might be hungry, you might be thirsty, you might be stressed out from work, and you're offloading that at home when your nervous system is being over activated by your kids being loud and you really need quiet. It might be a certain time of day that you're more likely to yell. If you're able to identify, yeah, I tend to yell more in the evenings or I tend to yell more in the mornings, that is definitely something to look at, because all of these factors your environmental factors play a role in your stress response being activated out of habit. So it's possible, for example, that if you're somebody who always yells at night, it could be that you're more prone to yell when you're feeling tired. Or it could be that you're more prone to yell when you're feeling hungry, or it could be all of these, right? It might not just be one, but if you are able to identify a certain time of day and a certain thing that actually gets you yelling, then you are able to start changing those environmental factors, right? So maybe before you engage with your child or before your child, and the same thing goes for your child too, by the way, maybe your child is more likely to use that particular tone or do that particular behavior when he or she is feeling hungry, right? Or he or she is tired. Maybe they get that whine going when they're really tired. These are things to look at so you can start interrupting what becomes a cycle and then becomes habitual without us even realizing it. So making sure that you're fed, making sure your kids are fed, making sure everybody's rested. Like we all know that those are important things, but we don't always know that they are so linked, like existentially, inextricably linked to our cycles and our habits of yelling. So take a really good look at what are the environmental factors that set your child off into doing the behaviors that make you want to scream, and look at the environmental factors that happen for you when there is a predictable pattern of you yelling. So that's what I want to leave you with today is this idea that looking at the whole kit and caboodle of yelling as a cycle, trying to identify your patterns so that you can start building a new habit is a great way to start thinking about yelling instead of just saying to yourself, I'm just a bad mom, or I'm just impatient, or I'm just stressed out. Like those things don't help. They can be self-punishing. They can make you feel worse. They can make you more prone to yelling because if you're feeling bad about yourself, then that's going to make you more triggered, right? So just think of it as a cycle. Think of it as a cycle that might be ingrained and now has become a habit. And what are the pieces that you can start to pull apart? And we can continue this conversation. And I will definitely have more talks about this going forward, but I want to make sure that you had that good takeaway today. I really hope this video was helpful to you. Feel free to share it and use the comments to ask a question or to request a topic for the future. We've got links below for free support with things like discipline, teaching your kids how to be more gritty, and how to be more patient with your kids, plus access to my free coaching group. So be sure to check those links out. And remember, we get one shot at parenthood. Our kids only get one shot at their childhood. So let's make it count. Click like and subscribe, and I'll see you soon.